Morning, everyone. Today I am going to speak on contractual risks and conflict resolution. Coming on to next, what can be the different kinds of contractual risks which the suppliers and the clients has to face in supply chain? It can be financial risk, value for money, that means delayed delivery, delayed payments. It can be operational risk, which can be created by frauds, systems, and process. It can be currency risk, which is fluctuations in the currency rates of different countries. It can be reputational risks, for example, poor delivery by the supplier can create a risk in reputation on the clients, the companies. We can have a legal risk also, which can be there from the liabilities on signing and risks. There can be regulatory risks, which is PPRA, corruption, visibility. There can be strategic risks, for example, extra cost and timeliness. So these are the various critical risks which in a supply chain can be there during the commercial contracts. What can be the triggers for the successful contract? The triggers for the successful contract, which has to be taken in consideration by the suppliers and the clients as well. Value for money, which is very much essential for the client, right? If the client is not getting value for money by the suppliers, that is value for money is being realized, arrangement of the service delivery continue to be satisfactory to both the parties. So for both the parties, whether it's a supplier or it's a company, the client, right, the buyer, for both them, there's a contract should have provide them the value for money as well as expected business benefits are being achieved. Supplier is cooperative and responsive. The organization understands its obligation under the contract. There are no disputes, there are no surprises. Yes, these are the various triggers which makes a contract a successful contract as well. We also have the various triggers like a professional and objective debates over the changes and issues which can be held. Efficiencies are being realized. So these are the various things which both the parties, the buyer and the supplier, has to keep into consideration to make the contract a successful contract. Coming on to benefits. Benefits of managed contract. What can be the various benefits which can be for the managed contract? Successful contract management, which covers the period from the beginning of the procurement until after the contract ends. The receipt of the goods and services at the right price, quality, and on time, as well as proper compensation of the contractor is a goal of a successful procurement. As well, we have another benefit for a risk managed contract. Poor contract management often results in end users' frustration, reluctance to use a new vendor, agencies' acceptance of poor quality services or goods, increased cost due to lack of quality or overpayment of contractors, lack of contractors accountability, and generally poor contract performance. So definitely these things has to be taken into consideration because we want a contract, whether it's a buyer or a supplier, to be successful, providing both the parties the value for money. A contract is can be a means to an end. Simply enforcing the contract will not give any end result to any of the parties, whether it's a buyer or a supplier. So there should be no enforcement of the contract, the regulations, the process enforcement, as well as success should instead be measured by effectiveness of the program that the contract supports. So definitely it should be measured. If you remember, we have already discussed about the key performance indicators on the basis of which the performance of the suppliers and the buyers are being analyzed. Coming on to next, risk management policy in the contracts. What can be the various risk management policies in the contract? Now, organizations must have a written policy in regard to contract risk management. As well, what should be addressed in that policy? The policy should address the requirement that all the contracts must be written. That means it's not a written contract. It means the regulations, the process, the steps, what we are going to follow to make that contract a successful for the buyer as well as the supplier. The designated authorities level to negotiate and sign the contract. Who all are the designated authorities? The personnel who can sign and negotiate onto the contract. Generally, the greater amount and the potential exposure, the greater the level of authority required. As well, we also need in a contract, which can be a risk management policy for a contract. The requirements can be requirement that all the contracts be reviewed for the risk management. What are these cases? What can be the conditions where it has to be reviewed that these requirements can create the risk? As well, the requirement that any indemnities granted by the institutions are approved pursuant to Public Finance Act, as well designated central storage areas, including who can assess the stored contracts and procedures to obtain copies. Coming on to other requirements, the requirements that current listing of all the contracts is maintained, as well the schedule defining how frequently contracts should be reviewed and for both the performance and the risk management issues. As well, we should also have a requirement which can avoid the risk for a successful contract is achieving the procedures for the expired contracts and how long they are will be retained. Anyone managing contracts must know if they have the authority to negotiate and sign the contract, yet or if they do not have this. Employees must understand the obligations. If the limitations are not known to their employees about the contract to implement the contract, definitely it can never be successful. So that should be known by the employees. Then employees responsible for the contract negotiation should receive the instructions, trainings on how effectively review the contract. That's all for today. Thank you.